to everyone around. So she is an SEBI registered investment advisor, founder and owner of Apnadan Financial Services. So she works on a fee only planner mode, and she is into financial advisory. She caters to risk management, retirement planning, personal finance, wealth management, and she also has experience in insurance and mutual fund industry. And for keeping the mind sound and sane, she is a believer of keeping good health, and she also prefers yoga and dance to keep the mental and physical health. So with this, I throw the mic towards you, ma'am. And in case I missed anything on the introduction part, I would request you to add to it. And additionally, my first question would be how it started for you. I mean, how you entered this field and how it started for you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, guys. Wish you all a very, very happy Dashera. I hope you had a great day today and you also enjoyed all the 9 days of Navratri. Okay, so guys, as you know, actually, I'm a SEBI registered investment advisor and I work as a fee only financial planner. So, how actually I enter in this profession is that I like to from since childhood itself. Okay, I have inclination towards commerce, economics, and accounting, all that stuff, right? So I got my BCom done. After that, I pursue post-graduation diploma in business finance from Hyderabad University, and then I did my MCom. Then I got married. Okay, and then after I got a job in insurance sector. So I was working with ICICI Prudential in a sales trajectory first, and then I moved to a training trajectory. In that, I got to know about this exams for being a fellowship of Insurance Institute of India. So I gave those exams. I cleared my associate. I cleared all the fellowship papers as well. Just last paper was left, and my first child was born. And then because of that, then I couldn't complete my fellowship. But I was working with this with the insurance company quite a lot more time. Then I shift to Reliance. Now it is a Reliance Nippon. Okay, and after that, there I start working as an underwriter, and then I was heading a quality team as well as. I was into medical underwriting, but because of family responsibility and all these things, and all my knowledge actually got only stuck with the one sector of the finances. So I decided to quit my job and started something on my own. Then I got to know about this. Firstly, I just wanted to have some consultancy going on. Okay, so I set up my business. I was more focusing on offline clients at that time, doing all the same thing which I was doing. But at that time, I just wanted to see that what is the actually the requirement of the public, whether they really need someone who can give them the holistic financial planning advice. And I really got a good response from the well-wishers or all the people around me. Then I got to know about this SEBI registration. I applied for this because I already have all the criteria met. I already met all the criteria which has been prescribed by SEBI, and within 4 months I got this license. So from last 4 years, I am working as SEBI registered investment advisor, and with actually grace of God, all my now I'm working pan India as well as I have lot of NRI clients, and people actually recognize me as a financial planner, and they are really pouring love, and that's it's what more I will ask actually.
Yeah. So, ma'am, as we know, as the topic of personal finance comes to mind. So, as rightly said, personal finance is more personal than finance. So, basically, would like to know from you the importance of financial planning and how, in like what we see in schools and colleges, the curriculum doesn't inculcate this very important burning topics, which should be like every individual is one way or the other has this topic imbibed in herself. So poor planning lead
Correct.
to many what we say adversities in lives of people. So would like
Correct.
to know your view on why financial planning is important and what are your views on that? Yeah.
Definitely. See, everyone wants to have a financial independence, right? This is a really very, very dear word to everyone of us. But do we really know what do we mean by financial independence, or do we really give that much efforts to really be in that position that you can call yourself financial independent? Okay, really, it's not that kind of efforts we are putting to be financial independent, right? So first, kindly understand that building wealth doesn't happen by accident. You need to plan things meticulously and implement those systematically. Financial independence is available to those who learn about it and work for it. So this is the prime prerequisites of being a financial independent, right? So kindly understand there is no quick money available in the market. Not quick money or nothing is so-called rich. You can be a rich or financial independent in a shorter period of time. You have to have the things in plan, and you have to make sure that you are implementing it thoroughly. Okay, now as far as personal finance or financial planning is concerned, what is that? So you may say that it refers to the process of streamlining the income, expenses, assets and liabilities of the household. It means of the family, to take care of both your current and future need of funds. Why do we need money? Definitely to take care of our goals or our day-to-day expenses or any future expenses which you are planning going ahead, right? So it's a very, in layman language, you can say that it's just a process of streamlining all these things so that you can make sure that you are having a adequate cash flow to take care of your current and as well as future needs or funds, right? So what are the benefits of financial planning? So if we can just list down some of those, is that it shows the roadmap for future actions, right? Sometimes we may not know what to do, right? So when you do the financial planning, if you do it on your own, which is also good, or if you do it with an expert like me, then it will definitely give you a roadmap that what are the things you need to keep in mind going ahead. It improves your financial understanding, because this is a process, not only that we are I'm to my client, I don't just give them the financial plan and that's it. I'll make sure that they understand it thoroughly, they understand the basic concepts of financial planning, and their financial knowledge increases, right? So it is the overall journey of improving your financial understanding. It empowers you to handle your own finances. So as far as clients who actually work with me, I make sure that they are able to handle their finances on their own, right? So after 2 to 3 years, they can be doing the things on their own if they are having that confidence, right? So this financial planning definitely gives you an edge that you can handle your finances on your own. You understand the things in a better way, right? Definitely then it helps you to achieve financial goals. It prepared you for emergencies. It strengthen your financial knowledge. It assists you in building financial security, which is very, very important nowadays, right? We all are working in private sector, so or we have this business income. We have to be very sure that we are having that financial security all the time. It actually teaches us to avoid noises around, right? When you are doing a personalized financial planning with the help of a expert, mostly it will give you a focus that this is the path you have to go on that. Okay, so that you can actually avoid noises which is all around us and making us leading us to confusion, right? It improves your standard of living. When you have money, it increases your standard of living. It motivates you to achieve financial independence, which is the core, or which is the aim everyone is having. It also encourages to target a fire concept, right? Fire, which is the very well known concept nowadays. So everyone is having that motivation to acquire the fire, right? And if you it keeps you focused till you achieve the financial goal. So this is the some of the important I may say the advantages or benefits of financial planning.
Right. So you talked about assets and liabilities. See, these terms appear so common, but again, the essence and the importance of understanding the underlying message, like what is an asset for you and what is a liability. So that is very, I mean, people think that they know it fully, but they are not aware of it in the sense
Yes.
on the basis of which they decide their finances and lead to, I mean, what we say, poor planning. So how you define it, and what would be your advice to going about building assets or doing away with liabilities?
Correct. See, you ask a very, very important question, because most of the times we end up buying, we think that we are buying an asset, but we end up buying the liabilities. Okay. And most important, one of the thing is that if you are buying real estate, which is really not needed for you, if it is a, if it is a part of your portfolio, which is actually at a higher level, it means you don't need that much allocation to that real estate, and still you are buying by the help of debt, then definitely it can be a liability for you, right? Because if the income from that particular asset is not equal to the debt which you are paying, then ultimately you are carrying the liability. So you have to be very, very careful that which kind of asset you are choosing in your portfolio, and whether they are really an asset or turning into a liability. Second option can be any type of endowment plans or any type of traditional policies. If you are having, if the premium, in relation to premium, the cover which you are getting, right, if it is a very less, right, and most of the times it happens in that scenario, then you are actually buying a liability. The asset creation is not into that kind of manner, or in that depth, that you will be getting the amount after the investment period, which will be over, right? So such kind of thing you should avoid. Then when you are actually considering the asset should be normally into two types. One is the fixed asset, second one is the financial asset, right? So in fixed asset, we may consider the physical gold, the real estate which you are having, right? Any type of farm land, if you are having any sort of commercial assets. So these are the fixed asset. And in financial assets, all type of mutual fund, share, FDs, RDs, bonds, right? Debt mutual funds and all other things, EPF, PPF, SSY, everything comes, right? So the asset, or the asset actually should give you the capital appreciation, and as well as if you want a regular income, then that it should provide you that. But in relation to, if you are getting it on a EMI, then you should see that whatever EMI you are paying, whether that much, at least the capital appreciation is at par, or it should be more, then only it will be an asset for you. Okay, so this is the very important thing you should be able to understand, that whether you are creating an asset or whether you are building a liability in terms of, if you are having a home loan, if, as I said, if that proportion of increment of the value of the capital appreciation or rental income is more, then definitely one can consider that it is helping you to create an asset. But personal loan, car loan, or any type of credit card loan, they all are liabilities, which is actually making a burden on you, and because of that your saving is eroded, and you are not able to create wealth in long term. So you should be very careful what kind of debt you are having, whether it's a good debt or bad debt.
Ma'am, I would request like to explain the segregation of good debt and bad debt as you were saying currently.
Good debt means the debt which will be helpful for you to generate or create an assets. Okay, so first example, definitely a home loan. Okay, second can be an education loan. Okay, so sometimes people may hesitate to go and have the education loan. They may think that this is the additional burden I am carrying, but kindly understand, human capital is the first capital, okay, which will help you to create more wealth. So if you are taking any sort of loan to educate you, gather skills, right, upgrade your knowledge, so please don't hesitate to go and have the education loan. Definitely you should be able to make that assessment, that whether if I'm going with this particular course, whether it is going to add my knowledge or add to my credibility, or it just for sake of as all are doing, I'm doing. Okay, so it should not be the case. So you should make a note that whether it is giving you wings to grow further. Okay, so this kind of loan is also again good. Then capital, the loan which you are buying for any sort of business expansion or capital, which will be also be considered as a good debt, because here you are borrowing because you want to expand your business, right? You are making sure that your business is increasing, and it will give you a great kind of start, or expansion will be helpful for you to generate more income. So these are the categories which you can consider as a good date. Bad date definitely is the same thing. If you are buying say product like iPhone, which is nowadays is in the news, right? If you're buying it on credit card, if you're buying it taking a personal loan, right? And see, all such stuffs may be a necessary nowadays. People may think that, but it is not that necessary, right? You can make a call or do all the things with a 15,000 rupees phone as well. Do you really need to give 1 lakh of rupees? You have to check that that the rationally behind it, whether my income support that kind of, how much percentage of this cost to my total income. You have to make sure that you are calculating that, and then only you are taking this decision, right? So any sort of personal loan, credit card loan, then definitely vehicle loan in some cases, right? Because see, vehicle loan and all these things should be you should make sure that you are having that the exposure of this EMI only up to 35% of your total income, or a total in hand salary which you will be having, right? So in that case, you have to see that vehicle loan, then any sort of credit card loan, then personal loan, or any other kind of quick debt which is available now because of some apps, right? You should avoid those.
Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, the house is divided over the consumption thing and being frugal. So, how to maintain the balance between the two? Because even people say like we have only one life, we should enjoy, and on the other hand, when it comes to saving, so we have to be frugal at times. So, how to strike a balance between the two so that we can be better off in our later lives?
Definitely. See, frugality doesn't mean that you are depriving yourself for the basic thing which is needed, right? Because we have to live our life. You said correctly that this is the only one life which I will be getting, and I really want to enjoy. But enjoyment differs with each person, right? For me, I really enjoy reading a book, or really enjoy spending time with my family. I really enjoy reading some good stuffs, right? For me, going to a party, or just going out for each and every weekend is not necessary. If you are that kind of person who is outspoken, or who really want to go and have fun outside, make sure that you are having that budget listed, right? Because see, it's not that I'm not asking you to keep sit at home and only after that, after some time, then regret about that. You can go out, enjoy, but make a note, make a budget that okay, this much is only which I'm going to spend in this weekend, or such kind of thing, right? So that budgeting is very important. As I say, each budget or each kind of thing, how much percentage of each expense you are having with the relation to your income is what really matters. So thumb rule is that 1/3 of your income should be considered for expenses, 1/3 for your EMIs, and 1/3 should always be there to make sure that you are investing for your financial goals, right? So as I said, balancing with future and present is very important. Sometimes because of COVID, after COVID, or in that COVID wave, many prospects who approach me say that I really don't believe in all the things which you all financial planners actually say, that we have to save this much and that. What will happen if I die very early, right? See, when we are going to die, nobody we just can't say, right? There is a two type of risk we carry, that we may die early, right? Or we are early or young, or we may have a longer kind of longevity, right? So we may be very old. So better, I always tell my clients that it's always better to die being rich rather than living poor. Okay, so you have to make sure that for each and every day of my life, I will be a financial free, or I at least I should be able to take care of myself, right? I won't be a financial burden to any person, or even on my kids. So this is the mantra, you have to do it, and then you have to balance both the things.
Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, I'll ask a very generic question. Like, one is like we people are habitual of mixing insurance and investment. So, views are invited on that. And secondly, like जो goals का होता है हमारा, we people are very what we say unaware what are our goals. We are clueless until the time we need the actual money or maybe the finances. So, how to come to a position that where we can define our goals clearly so that we can achieve by a proper financial planning. Yeah.
See, it's very important, right? So, the first parameter or first step, I would say, when you start financial planning is to identify your financial goals, right? What are your life goals? So, you should know for what goal you want to start investing, because if you don't have any sort of thought process behind why you want to invest, then that kind of investment can be called an random investment. It will be a directionless. You really don't have a strategy that for how long I should be in that particular financial asset which I have chosen. So sometimes if you are investing, say, in equity mutual funds, right, without knowing when you really want this money back, and because of the volatility in the market, you may get panicked and you really come out of the fund when the fund is actually at a loss, right? So, and you will say that, oh, this is what is the share market, or this is how the equity mutual fund works, right? But you actually don't haven't done any sort of homework before choosing a particular asset class, and because of that you are actually into a loss, or you're not expecting you got disappointed by the outcome which you have received. So that's why it's very important that financial goals needs to be actually jotted down, paid down properly, and then you have to make a financial plan accordingly. So sometimes, as I said, sometimes it happens that we really don't understand ki what are the financial goals, kya hota hai ye, right? See, सबका एक ही एम होता है, वेल्थ क्रिएशन. वेल्थ क्रिएशन सबका ही गोल है, राइट? एवरीबडी वांट्स टू बी रिच. लेकिन पैसा जो होता है हमें जिंदगी के कुछ कुछ दौर पे या कुछ कुछ फेजेस में चाहिए होता है, राइट? सो इफ यू आर अ बैचलर, राइट, सो फर्स्ट यू मे वांट टू हैव मनी फॉर सेल्फ मैरिज, right? Then you want to buy a car, then you want to buy a house, right? Then there can be a kids education, then upgrading a car again, going for a vacations, and then kids education, marriage, and definitely in retirement, right? So these are the very simple kind of financial goals everyone is having. Ultimately, our the goal for financial freedom is can be an equivalent, or can be we may say that I really want to be financial free even if I continue working, right? So these are the financial goals. So this is very important to identify your financial goal and give term to that financial goal. It means you have to decide the time horizon. There can be a possibility of plus and minus years, right? But if you are able to at least tell that whether it will be a short term goal or mid term goal or it will be a long term goal, then on that basis you can choose the product. So don't just have a very kind of long range that it can be from 3 years to 10 years. No, this is not going to happen. You have to be very specific that whether it is a 3 to 5 years or whether it is a after 10 or 15 years or plus, right? So along, if you have that kind of clarity in your thoughts, then you can choose the product accordingly.
Right, ma'am. The question of mixing insurance and investing. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So definitely. So the financial plan actually can be is having a two pillars, right? Most of the times we only end up thinking that financial plan means kaha invest karu. Okay, this is not the case. Yeah, the financial plan actually aims at your goal-based investment, and also also the second important thing is that it will let you know whether you have hedged your risk or not, right? Hedging your risk is equally important, and how you are going to do that is definitely with having an adequate insurances, right? So insurance is not in terms of one insurance, it is also having a different types of insurance one can go with. But the definite important thing is to have a life insurance first if you are working, and if you have financial dependent persons, right? If you are working and if you don't have any financial dependent, then you don't need life insurance, kindly understand. right? The mixing of insurance and investment is the I may say this is the most common mistake everyone actually do, right? In our society, as most of the times we think that if I'm spending something, I should get it back. Anything, I should get something back in that thing, right? So there should be an exchange, right? So अगर मैं कहती हूँ कि मैं पैसा टर्म इंश्योरेंस के लिए दे रही हूँ, and if I will be alive till the maturity, if I'm not getting anything back, so most of the times we think कि अरे फिर मेरा पैसा तो डूब गया, right? We don't understand that money is a premium, is to cover the risk which can be there if you are not alive, and the money will be paid to your family members in your absence. लेकिन वो अभी तक इतना पेनिट्रेट नहीं हुआ है हमारे सोसाइटी में. सो ये देखना बहुत जरूरी है कि दिस इज अ मैंडेटरी एक्सपेंस. काइंडली कंसिडर इज अ मैंडेटरी एक्सपेंस. जैसे आप ग्रोसरी यूटिलिटी बिल्स भरते हो, वो मैंडेटरी एक्सपेंस हो जाता है. द सेम वे दिस इज अ मैंडेटरी एक्सपेंस. इसमें अगर आपको पैसा वापस नहीं मिला तो आपको बहुत ज्यादा खुशी होनी चाहिए दैट यू सर्वाइव टिल द मैच्योरिटी, राइट? जब आप इंश्योरेंस और इन्वेस्टमेंट मिक्स करते हैं, उसका क्या सबसे बड़ा नुकसान होता है कि यू ऑलवेज बी एन अंडर इंश्योर्ड, right? Because you really don't afford that much premium which is needed to cover you through that traditional policy, because it is also having a allocation or percentage of investment, right? So uske wajah se premium bahut high ho jata hai, and because of that, what's the problem is that you end up being an underinsured. So and secondly, the investment part which you are having, that is also not giving you a good return, even that product is a long term product, right? So that's why it's very important that you should segregate both the things. Have a insurance which is adequate for you based on your income, liabilities, your net worth till date, and how many more years you are going to work. On that basis, you have to make sure that you are having an adequate insurance, and for that you are paying a relatively very lesser premium, which otherwise this combination product or combined product offers.
Greatly explained, ma'am. So, ma'am, one more thing, like on when it comes to emergency fund. So, I would request you to explain in a very simple manner that what should be the ideal way to build an emergency fund. Number one. Number two, where we should park it, which asset class, or maybe where we should park it, so that at least and how and when it should be utilized, doing away from exigencies. Say if in we have heard like when we have an emergency fund and say at times market correct to a greater level, so should that be deployed in those circumstances, or we should keep emergency fund for we should be very disciplined about using it only in case of emergency?
Yeah, definitely. See, the word itself is an emergency fund. Okay, kindly understand. Only emergency comes, then only you have to use this fund. So don't take it this money as a money which is been kept aside for any of the fun you want to do going ahead, or any sort of opportunity if you find in the market. Emergency fund is just for emergency. Then only you have to use that money. Secondly, most of the times people actually forget this step. Okay, we, as I said, we really want each penny to give us return. Okay, we really want something back from that penny which we will be spending. It's not the case, right? Emergency fund is the fund which you are keeping aside to face any uncertainty which which may come in your future, or anytime. We really don't know whether it will come in 2 months or 2 years or after 20 years. So that emergency fund should be ready with you all the time. So before starting investment, the insurance thing and emergency fund should be done at the first place. So if you don't have that much bandwidth, then first make sure that you are having the adequate insurances done. then focus on having the emergency as well, and then you can think of starting your own investments, right? So emergency fund should always be liquid, right? It should not be in sometimes people say that I'm keeping it in as I'm investing in financial assets, I can liquidate it anytime, so I'm investing in equity mutual fund, that can be considered as an emergency fund. No, it's not like that. Emergency fund which you are having should not actually have that variation in the value, right? So if I think if of the calculation, if the emergency fund comes at 5 lakhs of rupees, right? So at least that fund should be of 5 lakhs, right? If it earns income, earns return, that is fine, but the value should not be lesser than that, because if you really need money and if that value comes down to 4 lakh of rupees, then you are anyway short of that amount, right? So make sure that the investment which you are doing under the name of emergency fund is not actually mapped or not invested in any sort of instrument which is market linked. Right. So where we can park is that the thumb rule or the basic thing which you can do is to keep 1/3 of your emergency fund in saving bank account, 1/3 can be in the LinkedIn FD, and 1/3 can be in the liquid fund, right? So these are the very basic instrument you can use for parking your emergency fund. Okay. And second thing which I said, that it should be used only for the emergency, right? So investing in equity market is not an emergency anyway, right? कभी भी हम उसको emergency नहीं कह सकते. So make sure that जब market down होता है तो you are not getting tempted to come out of your emergency fund and invest it, right? Because as I said, we never know कि इमरजेंसी कब आएगी. सो आपने इन्वेस्ट कर दिया और इमरजेंसी आपके डोर पे आ गई तो आप क्या करेंगे, राइट? सो प्लीज ये टेम्पटेशन कभी नहीं रखना है. You have to be very careful that and you may think that this is not my money, I'm just forgetting about it, right? So this has been parked, this is actually totally not related to my investment. So this should be your first priority of building adequate emergency fund.
Yeah, ma'am. Brilliant 2 points. Like basically, when it comes to insurance and when it comes to emergency fund, one has to be very, very specific and be particular about it. And even the discussion which we had, the LIC agents which are there in all the families must be getting disappointed with our talks. Jokes apart, so moving on to next question, ma'am. Okay, we have Anil with us. In between, we can take one question from Anil. Anil, you can unmute and
Hi, ma'am. Thanks a lot for this kind of session. We have been completely turning our blind eyes on this kind of topic where investment management is very necessary. Ma'am, I would like to ask you that since now as we see that the fixed deposit interest rates are increasing a bit, and person like me who's basically 80% of the capital is deployed in fixed deposit, how far it is right or how far it is wrong, ma'am?
Actually, you should be happy now, right? Because the interest rate for fixed deposit has increased, right? 6 महीने पहले तो ये बहुत ज्यादा वेरीफुल था, right? See, definitely, जैसे मैंने कहा, it's very important for you to bifurcate your investment in different financial assets which will be applicable to that financial goal, right? So if you are putting your money in fixed deposit and which has been linked, if you are thinking that I need that money after 10 years or 15 years, then this is a mismatch, right? Because at this time, even if you maybe a risk averse, right? But if you can take a calculated risk, so you can start with smaller allocation to your to equity part and make sure that you are earning something on that, right? And then experiment and see what is the result, and then you can increase your allocation. So the fixed deposit itself is not bad, right? That product is very useful, but that is useful for short term goals, not useful or not you can rely only on that fixed deposit for your long-term goals. So make sure that for your short-term goals, you are investing in fixed deposits or investing in debt mutual funds, and you are not actually calculating the return. Sometimes it happens that you may be having a negative return, right? Because if the inflation is 7%, and if my fixed deposit is given me say 6% or lesser than 6%, 5%, right? So you may be in a negative kind of return, but still you have to be in that instrument for the goal which is of a short term, because that in that case the return generation is not important. Here the protection of capital is important, because your goal is very near, right? And you have to plan that. So even if I'm getting a negative return, I will be in a, or I make sure that I'm putting more to make sure that I'm having that kind of corpus which I require, right? So this is very important to understand. So that fixed deposit which you are holding, if it is for a short goal, short term goal, then you can continue. It is if it is for long term goal, then you can have asset allocation as per your risk taking ability, and you can go with a market related product as well.
Any follow-up question, or you got your answer? I think he got his answer. Yeah. So Preeti ma'am, next question is like, if I ask a very burning, like those who are in early 30s, have started their families, got married, have kids, and they are clueless about, like, they know that they have to set a goal, or maybe do financial planning for their kids, or maybe their studies, or down the line retirement and all. So they are very confused about the asset allocation. I know it is very specific to every individual, but I would ask you, what is a way of asset allocation? So would be great.
Definitely. Yeah. See, asset allocation is very important part of creating and balancing your investment portfolio, right? And this term is widely used by financial experts, but sometimes people really don't know what is actually the asset allocation. As you know, assets means different asset classes which we are going to use for making the investment, and you have to allocate your total investable surplus in those different asset classes. So the most famous phrase, which is never put all your eggs in one basket, is used to simplify this term asset allocation. So asset allocation is a process of deciding how to divide your investment across several asset categories, right? So the basic assets classes are cash equivalent, debt, equity, gold, and real estate, right? So as far as the financial goals are concerned, normally it's always good that you are having your investment done in financial assets, right? So the primary financial asset classes are equity and debt, right? You can consider gold as well for your long term financial goals, but allocation to that gold should always depend upon how much risk you can take into that, because this is also, we may think that gold is not a risky asset class, but it's not like that, right? Short term it is definitely having a volatility. So the percentage of each asset class should be dependent on your risk taking ability. And as I said, sometimes people may be risk averse, right? But if that person is investing for long term, he should have a kind of allocation towards equity. Otherwise, he will end up having a return which is not inflation hedged, right? And as well as he will be short of the corpus at the end of the tenure. So the allocation to risky asset class can be increased once you start experimenting, or when you are comfortable with the allocation. So basically, for a person who is in mid 30, right, he can have an allocation of 60-40 if you are only planning the two asset class, that equity and debt, right? So he can start with that. If you are risk averse, you can start with 40% asset allocation to equity as of now, and then you can increase to up to 60%, right? If you are actually also having some kind of gold allocation towards your portfolio, then it can be a part of the allocation can be a separate allocation, or you may consider that through debt which you're having 40% allocation, in that you can have a 10% or 15% allocation in gold as well, if you want to keep the equity allocation intact, right? So such kind of thing you can consider. As far as cash and cash equivalent and real estate is concerned, cash and cash equivalent allocation will always be there, because it is been related to emergency fund, right? So overall, when we do the overall portfolio asset allocation, it will also have its own share. And real estate, if you are normally owning a house, or a house where you are residing, is not a part of a net worth, right? But if you already have a second house, or any sort of land, or any sort of commercial premises, that can be considered under real estate, and it can also have the allocation. But make sure that your financial asset allocation is more than real estate allocation, and if it is not needed, the real estate at all, it is fine that if you don't have any sort of allocation apart from having your own house, that is also fine, right? So whole of your portfolio is only consisting of the financial assets and a digital gold, or gold in the form of, it means it not only in the form of jewelry, but you are having a gold which you can invest digital.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So before coming to Rohit, a small question, Preeti ma'am. So basically, the emergency fund. So it should be what we say. What should be the optimum amount of emergency fund? That is number one. And the second question is, should we build it in chunks, or it should be like we keep a lump sum amount for emergency fund? How it should be built? Yeah.
Yeah. See, building a corpus or building a emergency fund, if you don't have the money at front, then you have to build it in a smaller quantity or smaller investment only, right? So, see, first of all, how you are calculating the emergency fund. So, thumb rule is definitely you should have at least 6 to 1 year expenses of your monthly expenses, right? But don't only consider monthly expenses. You should also consider that what would be my, or you should calculate what would be my annual expenses, and you should consider or take the monthly component of that annual expenses as well, right? So first calculate your annual expenses divided by 12, and consider that this will be my monthly component of annual expenses. Similar you should do for all your life insurance, health insurance, accident insurance premium, right? So that will also be a part of emergency fund. And definitely all your EMIs, right? So you will now have a portion of all the expenses which is coming under the monthly expenses, and then you have to multiply it by 6. Now, if you're having a very sound kind of job, you don't have any job insecurity as such, right? And if your spouse is also working, then you may consider having a emergency fund which is been equivalent to 6 months. If you're a business person, and if your income is not it means not regular, right? You are having a variable cash flow, then better to have a emergency fund which has been up to 9 months or 1 year, right? So the more emergency fund will definitely give you a peace of mind, right? So you can calculate the emergency fund based on these aspects which I have asked you to do so. And then if you have a surplus already that much amount, so after the calculation, if the emergency fund for me comes at say 6 lakhs of rupees, and I really have that much amount, then please make sure that you are putting aside that amount and you are funding your emergency fund fully, and then you can start investing your regular financial goals from the income which I will be generating in future. But right now, if I don't have that much amount, then the priority of funding my emergency fund will be first, then I will be investing for my other financial goals, right? So it all depends upon if you have already have cash, or the money, park it as an emergency fund, or you can start building it, but don't give 5 years for that thing, right? You have to give priority that within a year I will make sure that I'm having my emergency fund at place.
So, if I understood correctly, by saying you have to take an yearly view, it means like there are months which we have more expenses, and there are times when we have less expenses. So, overall, an average of month should be taken before deciding 6, 9, 12 months, depending
Yeah,
on the right.
definitely. See, you have to see that what is your expenditure pattern, right? And you have to make an average of all these things. That you can just go and see your credit card expenses if you are doing. If you are pinning down your expenses, go and have an average out and make sure. But make sure that even if my requirement of emergency fund is 5 lakhs, I'll make sure that I'm putting aside 5.5 lakhs, right? Because we never know, because each and every day my this lifestyle expenses may keep on increasing, right? Because in this period with the high inflation, right? So even if I'm spending only on essential thing, that budget has already increased, right? So along with that, my expenses already increased. So in that line, if I have an emergency fund, that would be better. And you have to see the you have to keep on calculating that what would be the emergency fund periodically, and you should see that whether your emergency fund is in line with the expenses which you are currently having.
Great. So, Rohit, you can quickly unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I had some questions. First question was, now I have invested in active mutual funds, say the large cap, and I want to shift all the amount to index fund. Obviously, I am fine doing it gradually, but what would be a good approach without considering the taxation effect? Is there any solution for that? Was the first question.
Yeah. See, first, the question first, I will ask you that why suddenly you want to change your active investment to passive investment? It's just because everyone is talking about passive investment, or you actually know the importance of passive investment, or you know that what would be the benefit I will receive if I'm investing passively? You know the difference between both of them, and whether you are convinced with the change if you are going to do that.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced with the change. And most of my investments were done in February, March 2020. So the problem is, if I try to redeem them now, I am going to pay heavy taxation on that. That is the reason why I was looking for an answer that would probably help me. Plus,
Correct.
active funds over 10-15 years, there is less chance that they are going to beat the index, especially in large cap. So that is the main reason why I want to move over to index only.
Correct. See, that's good. I have asked you this question that most of the times we just go by the वो कहते हैं ना कि सीजन का जो इम्पोर्टेंट या जो ये रहता है ना, एक फ्लेवर रहता है, we just go by that, right? So now everyone is talking about index fund, so people may just shift their focus from active to passive. So you should know that what is the difference between these two approaches, and whether it is in line with the expectation which you will be having from that particular investment strategy, right? Okay, so as far as your question is concerned, kindly understand, whenever we are doing any shifting from this fund to that fund, or even from regular to direct, even from debt to equity, this is a purely sell and buy. Okay, there
Correct.
is nothing kind of you're shifting here and there. People actually have that conception that okay, I can shift my fund from regular to direct, or from active to this, or from debt to equity, just like that. It's not like that. You have to sell all your units. Then when you are selling, then definitely if any exit load is applicable, that will be applicable, or any sort of short term or capital gains will be there, you have to pay that. And then you are again entering, or you are again buying the units from the passive fund, okay, which you are planning to do. So this is a complete sell and buy thing. So you can't have or escape by not paying any taxes, which will be applicable at that time.
Yeah, anything else, Rohit, on your part? let's move on to the next speaker. So invest in India. Yeah, Rohit. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, I had another question. So my question was, do you recommend investing plainly in, let's say, an S&P 500 fund, or investing in, let's say, a flexi cap fund like Parag Parikh, which has international exposure of 35% or so, uh, from
See,
foreign allocation point of view?
correct, correct. So I think you must be knowing that right now the investment from a equity mutual fund in the US market is not been done right by the mutual fund which they were doing it right because of SEBI restriction. Okay, so
Correct.
first of all, kindly understand that you really need to check that whether you really want a global exposure or not. Okay, why I'm emphasizing here is that this is again a very well discussed topic on the internet or social media, right? That everyone is behind going to global allocation or global investment without really checking that whether that investment is really a need of an hour for my portfolio, and as well as what will be the tax implication and what will be the return which I will be generating, right? So you have to be really very careful or doing all the research before going or just having that inclination towards the US market, right? The allocation to a unknown territory. So even if we are now having all sort of information through of the world, right? But being there or knowing the each and every kind of things about that particular market, we may not know that, right? So going to unknown territory will be definitely difficult for us to explore. So if my investment corpus is not that big, so is it really necessary for me to go and have a global allocation is the first thing you have to see, right? Now if you are okay with, okay, now I have done all the homework and I am ready to go for the allocation towards the global investment, then you should be very very important is to fix that what would be the percentage of my total allocation which I will be doing in global market, right? So that is very important to understand. Kindly make sure that you are restricting it maximum to 20%, right? 20 to 25%, not more than that. And if you are very naive, you should start with 10%, right? So the difference between these both thing is that, as you know, that S&P 500 will be investing whole of the amount which you will be investing in the index funds of that US market, right?
Correct.
And the allocation which you will be doing or investment amount which will be you will be investing in Parag Parikh, only 35 percentage or the percentage which that fund manager will decide will be invested in that. What is the you can't actually compare this both the funds, right? Because the first fund which we are talking about is totally investment is in US market, so the return will be only from the US market or whatever US market is doing. On that basis the return will be given to you, and there the tax implication will be that it will be treated as a debt mutual fund for the taxation purpose. And
Correct.
here in Parag Parikh, the return which you will be generating, the mostly it will be affected by the Indian share market performance, right? So basically, I won't recommend you to compare this both the things as far as the return is concerned and as far as the risk which is been taking, right? Because the risk factor is also very different. So as I said, if you are okay with going with a product which where you really want a allocation to a foreign investment with the help of a mutual fund where I can also save my taxes in form of investing in Indian equity mutual fund, then definitely Parag Parikh would be a good option for you. But currently, these both funds are not investing in US market. That's the unfortunate actually.
Okay. Yeah, and one final question. So, I mean, what would be the inflation on education that I can consider? And I mean, is small cap a right route to invest for, let's say, a child's education? And I mean, so those were the questions related to small cap. and
See,
yeah, kids
so
education
yeah,
inflation.
correct. Kids education inflation actually is alarming right now in our country, right? So the inflation related to medical expenses and education, they both are at a very higher side. But definitely, when we do the calculation, right? The normally what happens that when we consider inflation, it can be ranging from 8 to 11%, right? Sometimes it may be more than that. On actual ground, it can be more than that. But it all boils down whether you are able to invest that much or not, right? Because see, this overall financial planning is we do it just to make sure that it actually motivate us to do it for a longer period of time. This is not a one time job, or if it is not, it should not be done only for 2 months, 3 months, right? You should be, if you are planning for your kids education, then you should be doing it for next say 15 years at least, right? If it is you have that much bandwidth to do so,
Correct.
right? So if you are only calculating based on 11%, right, and if you find it that that number is not achievable for me, then there can be instead of motivation, it can demotivate you, right? So even if we may think that this is what is current, the inflation is all around, right? But I will definitely say you that you can start with 9%, 8 to 9% as of now. See whether that much allocation is possible for you, and you start at least based on that. If that amount is calculating after considering 10 to 11% is far not reachable to you, right? Start with a smaller amount. The calculation can be done after considering 8 to 9%. And then if you have a good income after some more years, if you have good saving, then you can recalculate the goal and you can start funding more towards that. Okay. As far as selecting the financial instrument for this goal, then normally I avoid going with a small cap, right? Because we really don't know that what would be the result of. Not every small cap is having a capacity to turn into large cap, right? But again, the allocation towards this depends upon your risk taking ability. But I would consider that if the risk that much risk is not needed, better to avoid that and have a mixture of index fund, flexi cap, and mid cap, okay, for your allocation. Because here in kids education you have a fixed duration, right? You can't extend it. It means if my small cap is not performing and if it is been linked to say my financial freedom, it can be I can wait 2 more years, right? If the time permits. But for your kids education you have fixed 14 years, 12 years, 16 years, right? So better if you are not having that volatility, if you don't digest that, better not to go with a small cap.
Yeah, I hope this answers very good questions from Rohit actually. And guys, those who are done with their question, I am moving them to listeners for a reason. Like at times we get glitches with Twitter. So yeah. So now and next is Invest in India. You can unmute and ask your question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Prince sir. My question is to earlier question, ma'am. So as you mentioned regarding emergency fund, many times people are asking whether these funds are supposed to keep in liquid funds or in savings, or what is the instrument they're supposed to keep that fund?
See, it all depends upon what is the amount of your emergency fund. If I calculate my emergency fund and if it is just 1.5 lakhs of rupees, okay, I'm just giving you an example. Okay, so I may only use bank saving account and I may use only the LinkedIn FD, right? So, and if my calculation is coming at 10 lakhs of rupees, then I may use the liquid fund if it is needed. So, it's not only liquid fund or not only saving account or not only LinkedIn FD. You can have the mix and match of all these three products and you can keep the allocation as you want. But definitely, saving bank account, LinkedIn FD are most liquid. In liquid fund, if your allocation is more, you can definitely liquidate 50,000 rupees instantly. But it can take 1 day time to get the rest of the money to your bank account. So you can decide your allocation, but better to have there is three instrument if your investment or the amount of insurance amount of emergency fund is more. Otherwise you can stick with saving bank account and as well as LinkedIn FD.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
So Karthik, you go next.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for giving all good answers. Is there any provision in India for buying inflation-linked bonds like in West countries they have? So, do we have any provision? This is my question. Thanks.
Yeah, there are some bonds available in the market, okay, which are actually inflation hedged, right? But as far as, see, first of all, I warn, or I will give an alert to all the listeners over here. So when you are investing in debt mutual fund, or you're investing any sort of bonds, make sure that you are having all your homework done, right? Because see, there are some kind of investments which we may think that it will be an good investment going with that particular bond, but bond market is actually done with the it means, you know, that CRISIL rating is always there. As far as the long term bonds or any sort of bonds which you are holding in your kitty, if it is so, then it is related to the performance of that particular company. If you are going with a corporate corporate bonds, right, private corporate bonds, if it is the bonds are government sovereign bonds, then definitely this will be helpful for you to have that. But bond market or these things, you should be very careful that what type of bond you are choosing, right? And for inflation related thing, I, before only just going with such kind of bonds, I will actually ask you to do the asset allocation at the time of portfolio construction itself. Keep your debt portfolio very in that way where you understand such kind of thing, right? So FD, for me, understanding FD is far better than understanding the inflation hedge bond if I don't understand as a layman, right? Or understanding RBI bond is far better for me, right? Understanding for any of the credit risk fund if I don't understand. So, and for long term inflation hedge return, I may go with a simple index fund or allocation towards equity. So this such kind of allocation is far better at the portfolio construction itself, rather than checking that whether such kind of bonds will be helpful for me to mitigate the inflation return or not.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Karthik, for your question. And guys, this session is recorded, and the recording will be available on my handle. And apart from this, on various requests, I have created a YouTube channel where I place all the podcasts which I do. So basically, those can be revisited at any point in time. And once again, a small pitch. So if you are liking our Twitter spaces, do check our handles and appreciate by connecting with us. And Preeti ma'am is doing a wonderful job as far as this financial planning thing and creating awareness. So kindly check their handles. Obviously, any what would we say, as a standard disclaimer, if any advice being given is purely for educational purposes, that should not be construed as an investment advice from ma'am. So basically, these are for educational purposes also. So anything you have to say on disclosure, disclaimer thing, ma'am?
Yeah, definitely. See, the personal finance, which we say that it is always personalized, right? Whatever I write or whatever I say over here is a generalized knowledge which I share with you all, right? So even a person of same age category, same income, right? The financial planning or the investment options or allocation to that particular investment differs. So you should be very careful that you are doing a personalized financial planning on your own. If you want to do it, well and good, if you understand that, or from an expert. There is not a copy paste of any financial planning which we do, and here which I'm, whatever knowledge I'm sharing, it's a purely a generic one.
Preeti ma'am,
Thanks.
am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, Anil.
Ma'am, one more question I would like to ask. Could you, by the diversification, we diversify sometime for the mutual funds. Like I have a mutual fund since 10, 15 years. They have been running and touch wood, they are giving good profit by now. But mutual
Mhm.
funds are subject to market risk. That today the market is going down and down. And we have this war risk, this risk, the mutual fund value becomes half, or we have this scare that we cannot continue our SIPs, openly. Like, so for me, like, though I am in a profit, I am still not liquidifying my mutual funds. They are still running with me. And but now the market, the way are going, people are saying that it may come to 12,000, 13,000, 40,000 if the war happens, nuclear happens. So, this things the brings the mutual fund down. So what you suggest that, we should continue with the mutual funds without worrying about anything? Or, if we are at good profit, we should liquidify the mutual funds.
See, first of all, if you are investing for in the mutual funds, as you said, since long you are investing, and if that investment is linked with your retirement goal, and if that retirement goal is 15 years away, then definitely you should not worry about the things, right? Because see, I'm not the only one who is saying this. You also have all the historical data that after every day, if something is happening, the market will definitely recover. So if you don't need money right now, no need to liquidate everything which you are having, right? Because this won't be a wise decision. But the allocation, that's what the sticking with the asset allocation is very important in that way, that if your allocation to equity, if you have decided that 60% would be there, and right now it is touching say 70%, then you can liquidate from the amount to make sure that you are getting your equity allocation to 60%. So such kind of rebalancing and review and sticking with asset allocation is important. But it doesn't mean that with the fear that what will happen tomorrow, I'm liquidating everything and I'm just sitting on the cash, right? Because there is no perfect time. Nobody can do. If I can actually predict that this would be the thing, right? So I won't be running my business. I will just sit and enjoy my profit just by doing so. Why I will take an effort to increase my business or do things, right? So those who are actually telling all these things कि आप निकल जाओ, कैश पे बैठो, ये करो, यूट्यूबर्स होते हैं या जो इस तरीके से जो ट्रेनिंग्स लेते हैं, ये वो करते हैं, वो क्यों खुद को करना पड़ता है, राइट? अदरवाइज वही खुद करके वो पैसा कमा लेंगे ना. ऐसा नहीं होता है, राइट? नोबडी कैन प्रेडिक्ट कि आगे क्या होने वाला है. आप फ्यूचर जो बहुत बार अगर आपने देखा होगा कि जो कल टीवी पे दिखाया गया है कि मार्केट ऐसा होगा वैसे होगा, दूसरे दिन अलग हो जाता है, और उनका जो उस पे जो बताया हुआ चीज जो रहती है एनालिसिस, वो भी पूरी चेंज हो जाती है. सो इट्स ऑलवेज वी कैन एनालाइज और स्टडी अवर पास्ट परफॉर्मेंस, बट इट इज वेरी हार्ड टू प्रिडिक्ट कि आगे क्या होने वाला है. जो ग्लोबल क्ल्यूज हमें मिल रहे हैं वो डेफिनेटली थोड़े फियरफुल है, राइट? So we have to make sure that that's why the thing which we can do as a retail investor is that I make sure that I am having adequate emergency fund in my portfolio. I'm not touching that for any of the opportunities which I will be doing. I sense, or I am having that assurance that there is no problem in my employment, right? So I will give 100% to that. So instead of doing all such trading activity और मैं क्या करूँ ये सोचने से ज्यादा अच्छा है कि आप अपना जॉब या जो काम कर रहे हैं उस पर पूरा ध्यान दें and make sure that उसमें से आपको इनकम आता रहे. और थर्ड थिंग, जैसे एट द टाइम ऑफ पोर्टफोलियो कंस्ट्रक्शन इटसेल्फ, अगर मैंने चीजों को सेग्रीगेट करके रखा है, दैट आई एम हैविंग ऑल सॉर्ट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट फॉर माय ऑल शॉर्ट टर्म गोल्स इन सेफर साइड, एंड आई एम इन्वेस्टिंग ओनली फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म गोल्स इन माय इक्विटी थिंग, तो ज्यादा डरने की बात नहीं. क्योंकि जो भी स्टॉर्म आएगा या आने वाला होगा, उसके बाद तो हमेशा सुबह होती ही है, राइट? तो बहुत ज्यादा डर के अगर मैं सब लिक्विडेट करके बैठ जाऊं, तो ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि राइट टाइम के ढूंढने के चक्कर में मार्केट फिर से ऊपर चला जाए और मुझे कभी राइट टाइम मिले ही नहीं.
Yeah, truly said, ma'am. So, Akhilesh, you can unmute and ask your question. Yeah.
Good evening, Preeti ma'am.
Yeah. Hi.
Ma'am, kindly tell me about the term insurance. Actually, ma'am, what is term insurance? I know because you tell about the difference between investment plan with term insurance and simply term insurance. And ma'am, what is super top up plan? Once you told about this thing, that super top up plan is also important with term insurance. And our super top up plans should be more than term insurance, or should be more than some assured amount, or it should be less. मैम थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में ब्रीफली बताइए मैम प्लीज.
जी देखिए, टर्म इंश्योरेंस और सुपर टॉप अप एक दूसरे से रिलेटेड नहीं है. टर्म इंश्योरेंस, लाइफ इंश्योरेंस जब हम लेना चाहे तब हमें टर्म इंश्योरेंस लेना होता है, और सुपर टॉप अप ये हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस से जुड़ा हुआ है. ये आपको पता है क्या, या डिफरेंस ये आप जान लो. ओके, सुपर टॉप अप जो होता है वो हम हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस के लिए लेते हैं. हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस में बेस प्लान एंड सुपर टॉपअप का कॉम्बिनेशन किया जाता है. तो अगर आपको हेल्थ प्लान लेना है, या आपको हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन का खर्चा जो है वो उसके लिए सुपर टॉपअप लेना है. तो ये आप समझ गए. तो
जी मैम, जी मैम.
आपको सुपर टॉपअप के बारे में ही पूछना था ना.
यस
टर्म
मैम, यस.
इंश्योरेंस अलग होता है. या सो टर्म इंश्योरेंस जैसे मैंने कहा कि वो नॉर्मली कहते हैं कि 20 टाइम्स ऑफ योर इनकम होना चाहिए, लेकिन उसमें अलग बाकी भी चीजें ध्यान में रखनी चाहिए कि क्या लायबिलिटी आप है आपके पास, राइट. आप कितने साल जॉब कर रहे हो, कितना इंक्रीमेंट आपको मिलने वाला है, और आप वो जो पैसा अगर आप ऐसे इन्वेस्टमेंट में डालोगे कि जो आपको कितना रिटर्न देगा, तो उसको इस सब फैक्टर्स को डिस्काउंट करने के बाद आपको साइंटिफिकली वो अमाउंट कैलकुलेट करनी होती है, जो नॉर्मली मैं मेरे क्लाइंट के लिए करती हूँ. As far as health insurance is concerned, definitely अगर आपके पास जो सुपर टॉपअप होता है वो एडिक्वेट होना चाहिए. देखिए अभी आज के दिन में जो मेडिकल फैसिलिटी या उनका जो कॉस्ट होता है वो बहुत उनका इन्फ्लेशन बहुत हाई है, राइट. सो नॉर्मली अगर आपको प्रीमियम पेमेंट आपकी कैपेसिटी हो तो आपको कम से कम 50 लाख का सुपर टॉपअप लेंगे तो ज्यादा अच्छा होगा. अगर आपकी फैमिली बड़ी हो तो डेफिनेटली आप 1 CR तक भी जा सकते हो. तो बेस प्लान 10 लाख रख के आप 1 CR का सुपर टॉपअप ले सकते हो. लेकिन जैसे मैंने कहा, अगर आप 2 ही लोग हैं समझो आपके फैमिली में, तो आपको 50 लाख 30 लाख का भी एज ऑफ नाउ, इफ यू आर यंग एंड यू आर फ्री फ्रॉम एनी डिसीजेस, अगर आप फिट एंड फाइन है तो, और फिर जैसे आपका एज बढ़ते जाता है आप सुपर टॉपअप को बढ़ा सकते हैं.
Ma'am, one more question, ma'am. Ma'am, for example, I am a salaried person, and there are hospitals and panel to my organization. So, should I go to this health insurance, or my organization will take care of me?
आपको कितना, मतलब देखो
So
हेल्थ
Pritikam,
आपके
बेसिकली इनका क्वेश्चन मैं समझ पा रहा हूँ. बीइंग अ गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट, ये काफी क्वेश्चंस मुझे भी लोग पूछते हैं, लाइक कि वो गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट हैं और उनके पास एक पैनल है या मे बी प्राइवेट जॉब में है और उनकी एक एग्जिस्टिंग व्हाट वी से फ्रॉम देयर एम्प्लॉयर्स दे हैव एन इंश्योरेंस. तो उसके एडिशनली उनको करवाना चाहिए कि नहीं करवाना चाहिए, दैट इज वन क्वेश्चन.
यस, देखिए आप डेफिनेटली अगर आप सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट में है तो आपको बहुत अच्छी फैसिलिटी मिलती है. लेकिन अभी एक बात मैं कहना चाहती हूँ कि बहुत बार मेरे क्लाइंट्स भी एक आते हैं और वो ऐसा इस तरीके से एक फीडबैक देते हैं कि समटाइम्स दे मे नॉट प्रेफर टू गो विद दैट पर्टिकुलर हॉस्पिटल, क्योंकि सबकी अभी चॉइस अलग अलग हो गई है, राइट. अगर उनको अच्छे प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल में जाना चाहते हैं और वहां पे करना है तो शायद से इट ऑल डिपेंड्स अपॉन वेदर यू लाइक द फैसिलिटी प्रोवाइडेड बाय योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. इफ यू थिंक दैट दिस इज ओके फॉर मी, आई वुड कंटिन्यू टू दैट. देन अगर और पूरा आपका मतलब इफ देर इज नो कैपिंग to the actual expenses, not for you, also for your family members, तो you can only rely on the insurance which you are having. Otherwise, जैसे मैंने कहा कि आपके प्रेफरेंसेस हॉस्पिटल्स के अलग है, आपको अलग तरीके से ट्रीटमेंट चाहिए होगा, एंड इफ देर इज सम कैपिंग हैपनिंग, राइट, तो फिर आप अपना इंश्योरेंस ले सकते हो. बहुत बार लोग गलती करते हैं कि जस्ट फॉर सेक ऑफ सेविंग सम टैक्सेस, उनको जरूरत नहीं है फिर भी हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस लेते हो, तो ऐसा मत कीजिए. आप पेमेंट करते हो तभी आपको टैक्स का बेनिफिट मिलता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैंने कुछ खर्चा नहीं किया और मुझे टैक्स बेनिफिट मिल रहा है. इफ यू आर हैप्पी विद द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट जो आपको दे रही है मेडिकल फैसिलिटी, देन जस्ट फॉर सेविंग सम टैक्सेस आपको जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. उससे अच्छा है कि वो पैसा आप इन्वेस्ट करो और उससे जो भी एडिशनल खर्चा अगर आप करना चाहो तो वैसे भी कर सकते हो. इट ऑल डिपेंड्स अपॉन यू, हाउ यू थिंक कि क्या करना है आगे चल के.
Right, ma'am.
Great, great. Thank you, Akhilesh, for your question. So next question is, before that, Preeti ma'am, are we good on time? Because it's already 75 minutes. Initially, we thought it would be for 45. Interesting. So again, so we good on time?
Yeah, we can continue
Okay,
for
great,
5-10
great.
minutes.
So I am Pressy. You can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Preeti ma'am, I have a basic question around the asset allocation. Just wanted to validate whatever I am doing is right or not, or if it requires any course correction. So currently out of my total saving, around 45% is in equity direct as well as through mutual fund. Around 15% is in gold, 15% is PF plus PPF, and 22% is into the arbitrage fund because my son is expected to enter into the college, and I'm expecting that that out of those 20%, 10% I may require in the process to for him to complete his education. Remaining 10%, I am slowly moving gradually through STP into the mutual fund because now I have realized that he may not need those entire 20%. So just wanted your view around it, if it is accurate or maybe it requires any major rejig.
Yeah. See, first of all, understand that portfolio level पे जो in asset allocation होता है, it can be different than the particular goal for which you are doing investment, right? So in your case, if your son is going to a college next year, right? So definitely your asset allocation for that particular goal will be 100% in debt asset class, right? But if you are investing for your say retirement, which may be a 10-year away, then for that asset allocation will differ. So right now, just if you are giving me a portfolio kind of investment allocation, I may not be able to comment on that whether it is actually perfect or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it depends
So
upon the financial goals which you are investing. So but if you understand, as you are investing in a different sort of thing, I think you understand the concept, right? You know, and you have done a good job to shift your investment in arbitrage for your son's education, which is just a year away. So you know this, right? So broadly, I may say that you may be doing the things correctly, right? But for a particular giving you a particular remark, I may need more sort of information. But if you know the basics, right, I think you may be doing the good thing.
thanks, ma'am.
थैंक यू एंड वंस अगेन गाइस आई रिक्वेस्ट यू, और मैम एक बार लास्ट में थोड़ा प्रीति मैम हिंदी में पूरा एक समराइज करेंगे क्योंकि अनिल कपूर जी हमारे बीच में हैं, तो उनकी रिक्वेस्ट है कि थोड़ा हिंदी में भी बात करें, तो वी विल डू दैट. और मैम एक आपका ओपिनियन थोड़ा मुझे, जो जैसे पीपीएफ हो गया या सुकन्या समृद्धि योजना या इस टाइप की जो गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम्स हैं, तो उसके बारे में भी आपका व्यू जानना चाहेंगे कि हाउ व्हाट वी से we should view those investment pockets.
या डेफिनेटली सी सरकार की जो भी योजनाएं हैं जो आपको एश्योर्ड गारंटी देती है रिटर्न की एज वेल एज प्रिंसिपल की, और एज वेल एज आपका जो एलोकेशन अगर उसको उतना करना है आपको, तो आप इसको डेफिनेटली यूज कर सकते हैं, राइट? सो ईपीएफ हो गया, वीपीएफ हो गया, उसके बाद आपका सुकन्या समृद्धि योजना हो गई, अगर आपकी बेटी है तो आप इसमें डेफिनेटली इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो. एलोकेशन कितना रखना है, इट टोटली डिपेंड्स अपॉन कि आपका एसेट एलोकेशन स्ट्रेटेजी क्या है, उस हिसाब से आप इसमें रख सकते हो. बट डेफिनेटली ऐसा नहीं है, बहुत बार हम बोलते हैं कि क्या ये 7%, लेकिन 7% रिटर्न भी अभी कहीं पे नहीं मिलता अगर सरकार आपको दे रहा है. और लॉन्ग टर्म इसमें एक्चुअली इसकी ब्यूटी क्या है कि ये हमें फोर्सफुली उतने साल तक इन्वेस्टमेंट करने को मतलब लॉकिंग जैसा कुछ जो रहता है वो हम करते हैं. ईपीएफ का बहुत बार हम तो भूल ही जाते हैं कि मैं ईपीएफ इन्वेस्टमेंट करता हूँ, और जब हम नियरिंग टू रिटायरमेंट होते हैं और जब हम देखते हैं कि अरे इसमें इतने पैसे जमा हो गए, ये क्यों हुआ? क्योंकि आपने इसको कंटिन्यूअसली किया, इसको बीच में ब्रेक नहीं किया, और इवन इफ इट इज गिविंग यू 8%, लेकिन वो 8% से आपने इतनी बड़ी वेल्थ बिल्ड कर ली. सो इट इज अ प्योर एग्जाम्पल ऑफ कंपाउंडिंग इफेक्ट. सो ईपीएफ, वीपीएफ, पीपीएफ, सुकन्या समृद्धि योजना, ये बहुत अच्छे प्रोडक्ट्स है, इसको आपको डेफिनेटली यूज करना चाहिए.
Right, ma'am. So Poonam, you can unmute and ask your question.
I wanted to understand what is arbitrage fund? What comes under that?
सी आर्बिट्राज फंड क्या होता है कि इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड के अंडर इसका टैक्सेशन के हिसाब से आर्बिट्राज फंड आते हैं. आर्बिट्राज मतलब एक आर्बिट्राज इज अ प्रोसेस. जैसे हम कहते हैं कि मार्जिन जो हम कमाते हैं ना, मतलब फ्यूचर ऑप्शंस और कैश मार्केट में जो सेल एंड बाय होता है, उस हिसाब से फंड मैनेजर इसमें कॉल लेते हैं कि दे बाय समथिंग इन कैश मार्केट एंड दे सेल इट इन फ्यूचर, और उसमें जो मार्जिन या उसमें जो आर्बिट्राज पोजीशन बनती है, उस हिसाब से वो प्रॉफिट जो है वो अपने जो इन्वेस्टर है उनको पास ऑन करता है. आर्बिट्राज एक्चुअली बिहेव करता है डेट म्यूचुअल फंड के हिसाब से, बट ऐसा नहीं कि उसमें वेरिएशन नहीं होता है. शॉर्ट टर्म में डेफिनेटली उसमें वेरिएशन हो सकता है, राइट? तो ऐसा मत समझिएगा कि इसमें मेरा पैसा बिल्कुल भी ये नहीं होगा, मतलब वेरिएशन नहीं होगा. डेफिनेटली वेरिएशन हो सकता है, लेकिन वेरिएशन इन नॉट दैट, इसका जो इंटेंसिटी होती है वो इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड जैसे नहीं होगी. सो इट इज गुड टू हैव फॉर दोज हु आर इनटू 30% टैक्स ब्रैकेट, राइट? इसमें आप पैसे पार कर सकते हैं, एक्सेस मनी पार करके आप इसमें से लिक्विडेट करके, अगर आपको अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले जब मार्केट करेक्ट हो रहा है तो उसमें पैसे डाल सकते हो. जैसे अभी पहले के लिसनर थे, उन्होंने इसमें पैसे डाल के रखा है, 1 साल में उनको यूज करना है, तो अब वो 30% टैक्स ब्रैकेट में होंगे शायद, तो इसके लिए उन्होंने वैसे किया है. तो सच काइंड ऑफ थिंग यू कैन डू, बट इसका जो रिटर्न होगा वो डेफिनेटली 4 to 5% में ही होगा, लेकिन टैक्सेशन के हिसाब से दिस इज गुड टू हैव.
This is sort of a mutual fund only.
या म्यूचुअल फंड ही है. दिस इज अ म्यूचुअल फंड ओनली, और इसमें जो स्टॉक्स होते हैं उसका आर्बिट्राज किया जाता है. तो ये इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड ही है, उसका टैक्सेशन सिर्फ आपको इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड जैसा मिलता है, इसलिए लोग आर्बिट्राज को प्रेफर करते हैं.
Thank you.
थैंक यू. तो प्रीति मैम, जो म्यूचुअल फंड की जैसे आपने बात करी, तो थोड़ा सा टाइप्स ऑफ म्यूचुअल फंड जो और भी हैं उनके बारे में अगर थोड़ा आप लिसनर्स को बताएंगे तो दैट वुड बी वेरी हेल्पफुल.
हम इसको एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन कंसिडर करते हैं, राइट? बिकॉज इट इज क्लोज टू 9:30 नाउ, राइट? सो डेफिनेटली तो ये सी म्यूचुअल फंड जो होते हैं ब्रॉडली 2 कैटेगरी के होते हैं. एक इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड हो गया, एक डेट म्यूचुअल फंड हो गया. इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड में बेसिकली बहुत अलग अलग तरीके के नाम के आपको म्यूचुअल फंड दिखाई देते हैं, बट बेसिकली व्हाट म्यूचुअल फंड यू कैन थिंक ऑफ इज द इंडेक्स फंड, लार्ज कैप फंड, देन फ्लेक्सी कैप फंड, मिड कैप फंड एंड स्मॉल कैप फंड. ये ब्रॉड कैटेगरी होगी. फिर उसमें आपको फोकस्ड फंड, वैल्यू फंड, कॉन्ट्रा फंड, देन डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ जो सेक्टोरियल फंड्स हो गए, थेमेटिक फंड्स हो गए, ये भी अलग अलग फंड होते हैं. लेकिन ये सब फंड्स बहुत ज्यादा कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड होते हैं एक तरीके के सेक्टर पे. तो डाइवर्सिफाइड पोर्टफोलियो बनाने के लिए इट्स ऑलवेज बेटर that you go with a index fund or you go with a flexi cap fund, कुछ मिड कैप इस तरीके से रखेंगे और सेक्टोरियल फंड से बचेंगे तो ज्यादा बेहतर है फॉर गोल बेस्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट, राइट? डेट म्यूचुअल फंड में भी बहुत अलग अलग तरीके की कैटेगरी हो गई. जैसे हो गई आपको समझो कि लिक्विड फंड हो गया, अल्ट्रा शॉर्ट डेट फंड हो गया, क्रेडिट फंड हो गए, फिर ओवरनाइट फंड हो गए, मनी मार्केट हो गया, फिर उसके बाद लार्ज मतलब डेट लॉन्ग टर्म डेट म्यूचुअल फंड्स हो गए, फिर क्रेडिट रिस्क फंड हो गए, फिर उसके बाद बैलेंस्ड फंड हो गए, फिर उसके बाद जो अलग अलग तरीके के मिक्स एंड मैच जो कहते हैं ना, उस तरीके से डिफरेंट कैटेगरी हो गई. लेकिन इसमें भी जैसे मैंने कहा कि आप बेसिकली डेट म्यूचुअल फंड में वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू स्टिक विथ लिक्विड फंड, उसके बाद आप मनी मार्केट फंड, ओवरनाइट फंड और अल्ट्रा शॉर्ट डेट फंड के उसमें ही अगर आप रहे तो ज्यादा बेहतर होगा, बिकॉज बाकी के जो फंड्स होते हैं वो लॉन्ग टर्म बॉन्ड्स को होल्ड करते हैं, एंड उसके वजह से फिर कभी कभी आगे जाके हमें अगर वो बॉन्ड का कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो गया तो उसमें हमारे पैसे फंस सकते हैं, जो आपने अभी देखा था जब हमने बीच में जो सब प्रॉब्लम हो गया था डेट म्यूचुअल फंड मार्केट में. सो बेटर नॉट टू हैव दैट मच एक्सपोजर इन दोज थिंग्स, एंड यू आर कीपिंग दिस थिंग्स. बहुत बार बैंकिंग पीएसयू फंड्स, कारपोरेट बॉन्ड फंड्स, इस तरीके से डायनामिक फंड्स, इसमें हमें पता नहीं होता किस तरीके से बॉन्ड्स कितने लॉन्ग ड्यूरेशन के बॉन्ड्स लेके रखे हैं. अगर आपको लॉन्ग ड्यूरेशन के बॉन्ड्स लेने हैं तो आप गिल्ड फंड के साथ जा सकते हो. गिल्ड में भी आपको नॉर्मल गिल्ड फंड मिलता है या फिर 10 इयर्स का कॉन्स्टेंट मैच्योरिटी वाला गिल्ड फंड मिलता है. तो इसमें जो फंड्स होते हैं या बॉन्ड्स होते हैं वो सॉवरिन गारंटी के गवर्नमेंट के बॉन्ड्स होते हैं, राइट. तो इसमें क्रेडिट रिस्क नहीं रहता. डेफिनेटली जो रेट ऑफ रिटर्न मतलब इंटरेस्ट रेट रिस्क को जिसको कहते हैं वो डेफिनेटली होगा, बट इटसेल्फ ये लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए होल्ड करना जरूरी है. इसलिए इसमें अगर आप लॉन्ग टर्म में रखेंगे तो आपके अलग अलग इंटरेस्ट रेट साइकिल से आपको एक लॉन्ग टर्म में अच्छा रिटर्न मिलने की संभावना है. तो लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए यू स्टिक विद गिल्ड फंड, और शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए आप शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन के जो अल्ट्रा शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन के बॉन्ड्स होते हैं उतने तक ही आप जाएंगे. और हाइब्रिड फंड जो है उसमें डेफिनेटली बैलेंस्ड फंड में आप कंजर्वेटिव हाइब्रिड फंड होता है जिसमें एलोकेशन डेट में ज्यादा होता है, इक्विटी में कम होता है. और एक होते हैं एग्रेसिव जो फंड्स होते हैं उसमें 65% जो एलोकेशन होता है वो इक्विटी में होता है और बाकी जो एलोकेशन होता है वो डेट में होता है. सो ये आपके मिड टर्म के लिए एक हेल्पफुल इंस्ट्रूमेंट हो सकता है.
Great. Thank you so much, Preeti ma'am, for such elaborate answers. And it's almost 90 minutes, enough of time. So, guys, आप लोगों का भी थोड़ा जिम्मेवारी और दायित्व बनता है. If we are organizing good sessions, so you should check our handles and follow us so that the same voice can reach more people. तो प्रीति मैम का भी हैंडल आप चेक करिए और आपको काफी वैल्यूएबल इंफॉर्मेशन वहाँ पे मिलेगी. Although the session is educational, no commercial involved from either side, but again अगर आप लोगों को किसी को भी ओपिनियन और एडवाइस चाहिए तो जैसा कि मैम ने बताया कि उनका फी ओनली एडवाइजरी है, तो आप लोग उनसे कंसल्ट कर सकते हैं. उनके हैंडल पे उनकी डिटेल्स दी हुई हैं. और उसके अलावा भी अगर आपके कोई जेन्युइन क्वेश्चंस हैं, ऑब्वियसली स्टॉक टिप्स या इस तरीके के ना होके जनरल क्वेश्चंस हैं, तो आप कभी भी उनको टैग करके पूछ सकते हैं. तो आई thank you again, Preeti ma'am. Any closing or one more second, ma'am? We have Janak with us, and he's a great YouTuber. So I would request you to consider sometime to have a joint podcast with him if you have time. So Janak, anything you want to add?
नो इनफैक्ट ये एक सेशन था जो मुझे कैटेगोरिकली अटेंड करना था, बट ड्यू टू हॉलीडेज हैड सम फैमिली कमिटमेंट्स. जस्ट एक इनसाइडर, आई हैव मेट प्रीति मैम अभी रिसेंटली, कुछ 4-5 महीने पहले ही मिले थे, एंड वी हैड ग्रेट कॉन्वर्सेशन इनफैक्ट. सो मतलब दैट वाज वन ऑफ द फाइनेस्ट कॉन्वर्सेशंस आई हैव हैड ओवर लंच इन मेनी मंथ्स. एंड ये रिकॉर्डिंग मैं डेफिनेटली हियर करूंगा, एंड व्हाई नॉट. इनफैक्ट प्रीति मैम, आप Prince bhai, in fact, you ask Preeti ma'am, will she be open to having session with me? मैं तो any day I'm ready.
Arey Janak, please, yeah, it had a great fun talking with you, and definitely Janak एक बहुत ही knowledgeable person है, right? So definitely we can have the session together, okay? Don't worry. Actually Prince, यहाँ पे बासु जी, अगर आप जानते हो, बसवराज टोनगाटी, वो भी ज्वाइन हुए थे. एक्चुअली उनको भी मुझे बताना था, बट आई थिंक बिकॉज ऑफ सम टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट अभी वो नहीं है, राइट? सो ही इज ऑल्सो अ वेरी गुड फाइनेंशियल प्लानर. So if you can, we can also have a session together, right? So he's actually more knowledgeable than me. So people will definitely benefit with the collaboration of good finance influencer as well as financial planner, right? तो उनसे बात करके या उनकी बात सुन के आपको काफी चीजें definitely समझ में आती.
Madam, this forum is open for one and all, be it those who have expertise to share and those who want to learn by joining here. So I try to reach maximum people who have some sort of expertise to share their experience so that the audiences can relate their journey with them and they can form a framework and do well in their personal lives, finances, and investing, whatever it be. So, this I have an open invitation for everyone who can contribute. So, you share handle of Basu sir. I'll surely try to get in touch with him.
Yes.
And sometime in Pune, I would like to connect with you as well as Janak, and a podcast which Janak Priti ma'am has agreed would be a great idea. Yeah.
Done. I'm
Surely.
open to it.
So
I'm open to it. And in fact, everybody on this forum, Prince has created a wonderful repository. In fact, today only I spent some good time. YouTube पे सारे podcast available है. So this is some मतलब एक binge watch and you will literally get good amount of knowledge. आप 2x, 1x, 1.5x की speed पे देख के you can have many points. So go watch the YouTube channel of Prince. Okay, I can vouch मतलब there are no commercial interest anything. But really, Prince, you are really doing some fabulous work as far as creating content in financial education. Would really love to get a collab whenever it is convenient to you, Preeti ma'am, or for that matter, any other person who is willing to share the dice.
बिल्कुल
thanks for kind words, Janak, and I would more than happy to do that sometime. We'll connect offline for that for sure.
Yeah.
And
Sure,
guys,
sure.
again, this idea of YouTube came. You might be knowing one person, Dhaval Patel. He runs a handle by investment book one. So he also shares great knowledge of various books and the snippets of good learnings from various investors. So he gave me an idea that Twitter Spaces remove the recording after some point in time. So why not you place it over some place? So from there, we devised the idea of placing these podcasts over YouTube so that we can revisit. And Janak, even if you ask about me, I also watch at 2x, not even 1.5 or 1.7x. So again, that also saves on time. And again, there are many listeners who prefer listening at higher speeds. So over to you, Preeti ma'am, concluding remarks, and yeah, would surely like to connect in times to come. Yeah, over to you.
Yes, so concluding remarks यही होगा कि kindly understand that financial planning or personal finance is very personalized. It cannot be generalized, right? So whatever information you get from internet or social media or Twitter handles, kindly make sure that this is not directly applicable to you. You should do your homework first, see that whether you can get the knowledge out of it, right? But you cannot copy paste, and most of the times people blindly follow the portfolio which a famous person is having, or any trade, mostly a trader, right? If they share that ये trade मैंने ले लिया ये वो, people end up doing or copy pasting पूरा का पूरा. It's not like that, right? So even if choosing a equity mutual fund, debt mutual fund, any instrument as such, any trade if you are doing, kindly understand whether ये करने के बाद क्या होगा इसका result, right? तो personalized financial planning is very important. If you can do so, DIY investor आप बन के अगर कर सकते हैं तो definitely आप कीजिए. But if you get confused and you really don't know how to do that, better you take a help of a financial planner. That too if you go with a SEBI आ रहा है, क्योंकि उनसे एक first level का स्क्रूटिनी पहले ही हो गया है, राइट? उसके बाद आप जा सकते हो उनके साथ उन फाइनेंशियल प्लान कर सकते हो. बिकॉज इन फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग इट्स नॉट ओनली अबाउट नोइंग व्हाट टू डू, it is more you should know that what not to do, right? Because while experimenting or doing trial and error, you may lose money, you may lose your intention to do for long, and the most important thing is that what you will lose is the time, right? एक बार टाइम निकल गया वो फिर से नहीं आ सकता. कभी कभी पैसे हम कमा भी लेते हैं, लेकिन अगर कंपाउंडिंग का टाइम चला गया जस्ट फॉर ट्रायल एंड एरर में, या आप गलत प्रोडक्ट में फंस गए, तो वहां से बाहर आना बहुत मुश्किल है. सो काइंडली अंडरस्टैंड दैट फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग और टेकिंग हेल्प ऑफ अ financial planner doesn't depend upon what is your age, what is your net worth, what is the amount you can invest. It depends upon how seriously you want to plan your finances, right? So whatever be the age, if you are very fresher, if you are in mid 30s, mid 40s, close in 50s, close to your retirement, or even you are retired, if you are very serious about your money, if you are confused, you know what to do, if you really want to know what to do, what not to do, then better to hire a financial planner and get it done. And kindly understand, money is the most important thing, not the only important thing, but it is really one of the most important thing. So you have to take it very seriously. And the first introduction में जैसे मैंने कहा था, there is no concept of quick money. You have to give that much time to that investment to grow. जैसे हम जब ट्री लगाते हैं तो फल लाने के लिए उसको उतना टाइम देना पड़ता है, या जब बेबी कंसीव होता है तो बेबी आने के लिए 9 months देने ही पड़ते हैं, उसी तरीके का इन्वेस्टमेंट में है. सो डेफिनेटली इसको लॉन्ग टर्म वेल्थ क्रिएशन को देखते हुए आप फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग कीजिए, ना कि जस्ट क्विक टिप्स पे जाके. थैंक यू.
Thank you, ma'am.